Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I'm Zach.
I don't know why Zach turned into some little Disney creature or something, but that's still Zach.
An Olaf affiliate.
Yeah.
It's just some sort of...
Olaf affiliate,
It
yes.
just, it fills that role in the Disney movie.
We are here to talk about one of my favorite
Least
games.
Disney things.
Yes. And that is Catherine from Atlas. What was that, 2012, 2013 maybe?
I don't know off the top of my head. PS3.
Yes, PS3 and
PS3
360.
Persona 5.
That's right. This was testing out the new engine and a lot of the...
Quite the test.
Yeah, and a lot of the... It's the same art style. Like they're testing everything that would have been Persona 5, except, of course,
With more boxes.
from the gameplay, because it's just Persona 4. But I have a beer here that I was given last night. I know nothing about it. This is a Japanese beer imported from Okinawa. This is Orion, Okinawa's craft, The Draft. Orion, sure.
Maybe.
It doesn't say anything about it. It doesn't say if it's a lager. It doesn't say anything here other than imported from Okinawa, Japan.
So we can probably assume it's a rice beer of some kind.
Yes. Most likely, but we're just gonna. I was about to look at some details online, but I figured, why don't we just drink it and see what?
As you said earlier, let us taste it with our mouths.
You know, you said talk with words when we were testing, Zach. So
This is true. I'm not. Hey, no begrudging here.
all right, what are you getting there with that?
I am going to smell it now.
Alas,
Wow, it smells like beer. Actually, it smells like a lager. So
it looks like a lager through and through. I have a feeling this
smells like a lager. Looks like a lager. It's probably a duck. You know what I'm saying?
I do. There we go. Some more here for you as well. It looks like it's not going to be a great beer. Honestly, this color looks like domestic as hell. Which obviously it's not a domestic beer, but it just looks like a Coors or something.
I mean, I drink this over a Coors.
I drink most things over a Coors.
Yeah, really bitter. I'm surprised how bitter it is, honestly. It's nice too. I do like Sapporo quite a bit, actually. In terms of Japanese beers, I drink Sapporo pretty regularly. That's my lawn
I don't mind Sapporo. I like it.
It's my lawn beer.
I don't think it's too bitter. I'm not getting a lot of that, but it is very, very light. But unlike a Modelo or something, I feel like this has a lot less. Like, it's not as punchy as those. Those just taste like piss. All right, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here. This does not. I would happily drink this. As a lawn beer.
I really, in another life, I know Tyler became like a sommelier or something. And as he's going to tables explaining the wine selection for the night, this does not taste like piss. It's very good. And you just pour it for them. This one does. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
I wanna jump in really quick here and say that you've been trying to get me to play this game for a very long time.
Yeah, it's a hard sell. This is a weird thing.
It's a very odd game. My takeaway so far is the people that will get into this game will treasure it for a very long time, and the people that won't will have nothing to do with it.
And will judge you for it's so weird.
It's a very bizarre game. I wanted to kind of jump in really quick and give the broadest overview of what's going on with this game. So, PlayStation 3 title with quite the stellar voice cast, to be honest. Really, really stellar voice cast. And it's, kind of split. In this game, you have these nightmare sequences where you are playing as Vincent and you wake up in this nightmare world with a bunch of blocks that you can push and pull and climb on. And you're trying to climb each block. Each block is one step, essentially, and you're trying to get to the top of this tower and escape the nightmare, essentially. And so that's the night section. Then you have the day section, which is all cutscene. It's always just cutscene, and it's typically him talking with either his friends or his current longtime girlfriend. And then you have your evening sections at the bar, where you do have control of the character. You can walk around and talk to other NPCs. You can play a video game in the corner called Rapunzel.
Which is just this game.
Which is just more of this game, but in like more of a... It's more puzzle focused, like long-term puzzle thinking focused, less... there's no timer. It's a little bit more focused that way. And, you know, a jukebox, and it's... you can get cocktail facts. Like, it's just a...
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Very
like
much a social simulation aspect of this game.
Go to the bathroom and check your texts.
Yes, or check the mirror.
Oh,
and, yeah. I did that only on like the 6th night, and I was like, what just happened right now? So, and then Vincent goes home, goes to bed, and the next nightmare sequence starts. The story is pretty straightforward. He wakes up in bed with basically the ideal woman for him in his mind, like someone who addresses all of his current concerns in his own relationship, perfect, beautiful, all that stuff. And he keeps, he's cheating at this point, and he's trying to figure out how to deal with that. And the dreams, as he's having them, these nightmares, seem very much focused around his infidelity and a kind of purgatory of sorts. So that's in the broadest strokes what is happening in this game. And so anybody who hasn't played it can immediately see, oh, that's why it's hard to recommend to people. Like, oh yeah, it's a social simulator puzzle game. About cheating on your girlfriend. They're like, what? And the funny thing is, and I'm going to let you run with this in a second, but by the end of the game, I did not feel that it was a game about infidelity. Like, I really don't think that's what this game is about, which is very weird to say, because that's the plot of the game, is about his infidelity, but it's... I don't think that's what this game's about. Anyway, I want to hear what you have to say. I kind of just... What is this game to you?
That's why you're here. I've said it for the past couple weeks, I think. I want you to play it so you can tell me why I like it so much. And that's not because I'm a sheep. That's because I love this game so much, and I'm not able to put the words together. And Zach has said a couple things already that I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. I have not been able to illustrate my points to myself. That doesn't happen often. This game really took me by surprise. I played it sort of reluctantly, maybe 5 years ago or so.
Yeah, what got you to play it? I'm curious.
Just trying something new. I just intentionally putting something in that I wouldn't have played otherwise, just trying to broaden my horizons a bit, and fell in love pretty much immediately. The gameplay, I think, is fantastic.
Tyler's a very puzzle game kind of guy, and not like, oh, just a little puzzle game, on my phone. Like a well-constructed, replayable puzzle format. Like, Tyler's all about that stuff.
It's very good. The ice blocks in particular.
I just wonder how this hasn't been like repackaged, into a different, like this style of puzzle into a different box and
I don't know.
Very deep.
The what is the re-release called? Full Body. Full Body has. Well, is there multiplayer in the in the main one in Classic? Okay, well. I think it was 2019 or something. Catherine was at Evo. People were playing this, next to fighting game, next to Street Fighter, doing Catherine tournaments. That's very interesting to me, and sort of lends credence to the idea that this is definitely deep gameplay. It's very worthy of your time and consideration. But that aside, just this style of Atlas game, which I guess, is Atlas at this point. This is sort of their bread and butter now. But this style of Japanese game in general, I hadn't played before. And, I knew what Catherine was about prior to going into it. or at least I thought I did. As you mentioned, by the end, things start to feel different. As you mentioned, not being about infidelity, about something much more, which I'm going to let you get into. But it's unlike anything else. That's really one of the things that pulled me to it again. Like, I had such a good time from beginning to credits. I couldn't point at anything else that I had that unique of an experience with. And sure, there are unique games that you're not going to find anywhere else, but are maybe not that great. This one, like, everything about this to me is firing on all cylinders all the time. The ideas are wild and so well realized, packaged with this gameplay that just speaks to me. Like, the gameplay might not be for everybody. It is pretty niche in that way, but yeah,
it was an odd choice to go for a puzzle.
It was incredible to me.
Very odd choice, I think. For me, so I guess I wanted to answer this question for myself because I did have there are certain works of art for me that I struggle to, like you were talking about, I guess, for lack of a word, calcify what I like about them. And that's what leads to a lot of times me writing some of my longer pieces, just like some of the Outer Wilds, where, like, I need to write down how this made me feel right now. Not just because I need to share it with someone. That's like, I've shared that piece with maybe 2 people. Like, it's so that I can know what I liked about this. Because it takes sometimes words that aren't very rational, logical, this is why it's great. It sometimes just takes an expression of words, and that's how I'm best able to express myself, right, is language, specifically written language. So this game, I walked away from it asking, okay, what is this game to me? Because the game I started playing again immediately, basically, right after finishing it. And I had Chrono Cross to keep playing, and I shirked it because I was like, no, there's something more here. And right now, at this moment, I feel the urge to go and continue playing it. I want to get full body, play full body. Like, there's a lot here that's more than just, oh, I want to see another ending. Like, no, I want to go through what I just did again. And that's a rare thing for me in a video game that's not, when it's not just pure mechanical joy, right? It is so easy for me to go back to Metal Gear Solid 5 or something like that and just play it because I love the depth of that game. Catherine is a lot more going on there. So I have a couple reasons because I don't have an answer to the question, what is Catherine to me? If I were to answer it in the most, like, I guess, there's not really a word for it, I guess, but facile, I guess, terms, is just, it speaks very much to a universal modern truth about being a man. And I think that, again, it's a super weak, a super trite way to say that. But me trying to sum up what I think about it, like, this is a game, let me take a step back. When I lend Catcher in the Rye, one of my favorite things, is one of the most influential works of fiction in my life, I have never once handed it to a woman. Not because I don't think a woman can get a lot out of it. In fact, the person who recommended it to me initially was a really good female friend of mine. I never read it in high school. But the book is very specifically about growing up as a teenage boy. And so, of course, anybody can get from that. But Catcher in the Rye is written in such a way that it's very much identifying an experience, and it's asking you to be familiar with that experience. And it's strong enough to realize that it is speaking to a very nearly universal experience in specifically American teenage boys. And when I played Catherine, I had a very similar reaction. I had this reaction of, this is a game I want to show to just guys my age who, to see if they have that similar reaction, to see if it taps into something that they're familiar with, or if I'm just crazy, right? If it's just me and you and a couple other people who this is speaking to. I've watched breakdowns of, like, how it's very particularly about Japanese culture and what it is to be, and kind of the problems in Japan right now with birth rates and things like that. And yeah, that's interesting, but that's not what resonated with me, right? Because I'm not from Japan. So there's something a little bit more universal there, and that's what I am really wrestling with. So I have a couple things here in my extra section of notes here.
Okay.
My double notes. So the first thing that I think really grasped me is it builds a myth out of very contemporary issues without failing or missing the point of a myth. Right, so you have, and I'm not crapping on these books. I loved them growing up, but like the Percy Jackson series, right? It takes the Greek gods and it applies them to modern young adult teenage problems, and that's great. You're not at that point writing a myth anymore. The myth is gone. You're writing a story about using mythological elements to tell this story. Writing a myth is one of the hardest things you can do. And what I mean by myth, right, is it surpasses just being a story. It becomes this thing that is that could have grown out of culture naturally anyway, right? It's one of the hardest things to reproduce naturally, like to reproduce the significance and the variety in the pantheon of Greek gods, or in the or like the beats of Beowulf. These things that have become ingrained. It's a difficult thing to do. I think Catherine does it in 12 hours, which is insane. Because I feel like everything it talks about, I'll just read kind of what I have here in my notes. It builds a mythology better and quicker than any game I've ever seen. It's not world building, it's true mythology, growing out of a pressing, burdensome reality into a world that is consistent, full of imagery and life, and something that makes immediate sense. It's larger than symbolism because it can't easily be quantified, but it's not as empty as world building either. The idea of woman's wrath is an excellent bed for myth. These 100-year cycles, these, even the imagery of the sheep and this purgatory and the recurring religious imagery being more than just, it's a symbol of purgatory. It's like, no, these things are being formed out of this cultural consciousness in a way. And it tapped into, very big concerns for someone like me. Like, what is freedom for me? How do I grow up right now? What am I running away from? Why do I hate myself? Why do I punish myself? Really, really big questions put into a kind of image. What's the word? A language, a visual language that pulls from existing visual language, but fashions something, like you said, completely balls to the wall, crazy unique. And I think that's what I first really drew out. I've been talking a long time. What do you think about that concept, I guess?
I had not thought of that. Certainly not like you do. You read a lot. And as anyone listening could just tell, like the way you write, that stuff just comes way more naturally to you.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I've heard of a succubus before. This sort of dream, like, when you fall in a dream and you don't wake up, you die. I'd heard these silly things before, and by the way, we didn't make this clear. That's the timer on the puzzle. Those blocks fall, and if you fall, you die. And so men are showing up every day. Yeah,
love is dead.
So men are showing up every day in this, I guess, like suburb of Tokyo or something, just dead in there, and like a rotted corpse. It's were at the bar.
Sloth from Seven with a gaping mouth. Like, it's very, very disturbing.
Yes.
Like, have you ever gotten a true game over, like, just chosen not to continue?
I think so.
Yeah, and you just see Vincent in that state, and it's really unsettling. I was like, ew, I'm never going to click quit ever again. Like, I'm just going to turn the PlayStation off.
So, of course, all of this stuff is very clear to me, and as you mentioned, immediately understandable. But connecting those dots was not something that I did. Yeah.
But I guess to follow up on that question then is, was there something that you felt like it tapped in you that like spoke to just your experience as a I guess as a grown man? Is there something that you felt was like, this is something that I feel is more than just my experience, that like this is something you could hand to someone else?
Not until you framed it that way. Because I've not read Catcher in the Rye. I don't read very often at all. I am uncultured swine.
He reads a lot. He just doesn't read books.
Sure.
I should clarify. That's why he's well spoken and intelligent, because he still reads. He just doesn't read.
Yes, I don't
books.
read books. I do not consume literature. So no, it didn't really strike me that way. It's just the sheer uniqueness of not only the visuals,
Of
the
course,
gameplay, but also the themes that it's tackling. I've never seen anything like that in this medium, and it is much more than I think even on my what is this 2.5 playthroughs now.
What about
much
personally?
more than
What about personally? Like, did it elicit any memories or emotions in you from your experience, like personally? Maybe not some universal experience, but like you.
Personally, I'd have to say no, it didn't.
Because
I've never been in that situation.
Yeah, I would say
you and I were just we were brought up in. We married at 21.
Yeah.
Maybe you were slightly older, but we grew up in the church,
22.
and like most church-going 20-year-olds, it's time to get married. And so we were not. What is he? 32? I think Vincent's 32.
Yeah.
And still dating 5 years. No.
Yeah.
You'd be married by that point.
Yeah, it's insane.
Though I was dating for that amount of time.
But you were in high school.
I was in high school. Yeah.
But
it didn't resonate with me that way personally, but I see it to be true. Of course, I see it to be true, but for me personally, for us being raised in the church and never sort of, dating. Yeah, I married my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
So none of that was personally relevant. That doesn't mean it didn't resonate, because I see the truth in it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Makes you think. I'll move on real quick to the next big point for me that really resonated, and that has to do with. So I'm gonna dig into the story a little bit for a second. So, Catherine with a K. Let's call her K and C. So Catherine with a K, Catherine with a C. I'm just gonna call her K. So K, your girlfriend, she never once in the whole game, until the whatever ending sequence you get, shows any physical affection toward you at all. She has a very banal, grown-up voice. And not like banal like the voice actor's bad. Like the voice actor nails her voice. It's perfect. And Catherine with C, so C has an extremely childish voice. Like, I mean, kind of creepy, in my opinion. Like it's very giggly and schoolgirly. On purpose. That's the fantasy girl for a lot of guys. And so it's really interesting to see, the everything being physical with C, and literally nothing, never even a smile, from K. And that feeds into kind of, the game has a quote unquote morality meter, but it's really not. It's an SMT morality meter, right? It's, do you want structure and order, or do you want, anarchy? Do what you want, do you want to be able to live however you feel like living in that moment, right? That's the morality meter. It's not this good or bad. And the game never slaps you on the wrist. It slaps Vincent around a lot, but but you, the player, it doesn't slap on the wrist for your decisions. It's not here to judge you. And that is what hit me next. Like really hard is you are judging you. You know, you make your, so there's a section where you go and you get to choose between two options. This angel in a confession booth asks you a question with that has two answers, and you pull the little rope that matches your answer. He never goes, really? Wow, you piece of trash. Like, you know, the angel doesn't do that.
It's always like, oh, interesting choice.
Yeah, and great voice work from
him.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the whole game.
He sounds like I'm only vaguely remembering here. Like that might be the same guy that did the shop owner in SMT5. That skeleton creature from SMT5. They sound kind of similar.
That's a good call. What a weird guy. Yeah. I really like him.
And isn't Sojiro from Persona 5
narrator, right?
Is he's the bar owner, isn't he?
Maybe. I don't know, but I know he's the narrator for sure.
That's it. The connection there was like in SMT5. I mean, in Persona 5, they give you coffee facts.
And they
give you cocktail facts. That was the connection there. I forgot.
It's so good. I love his voice. He's got a really strong voice. All that to say, so you are judging yourself. You get to see how everyone else answered. You watch your actions play out. But every night, as you look at these sheep, there is there's the fear of falling and dying and, you know, being in this puzzle. But 9 times out of 10, they are like, and when you can find their real world counterparts in the bar as well and talk to them there. Mm-hmm. They are like beating the crap out of themselves. Like they really hate themselves. One of my favorite characters in the game is Orlando. He's one of your friends, like one of your 3 close friends who you always sit at the bar with, or you're always at the bar with. And Orlando, he seems to be. They're supposed to be the same age. He seems older, and it might be because he was married younger. They're the same age, but he seems a little bit older because he was married when he was younger, and there was a divorce there. And he says that she left him. That's how he's always framed the story. Oh yeah, my wife left me whenever I lost my business. You know, she couldn't even look at me. And as you see him in the sheep dream, he comes to the realization, I hated myself so much for losing that job that I literally did not go home and I just left them. Like, so that became her problem. He put it on her, right? Like, she couldn't even look at me because that's how ashamed he was of himself. Like, how could anyone look at me? Mm-hmm. You know? Which is such a, like, very, like, think back to, like, you know, when women weren't in the workforce so much. And you got to remember, a lot of Japan, I think even longer than in the U.S., had if I'm correct, had very traditional values in that sense, where the women like Catherine weren't really around very much until very recently.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but it feels right.
Yeah, and
what you're saying sounds correct, but I don't want to make a definitive statement there. But it does, just based on like what we have learned through their media. Through their media, that seems to be correct.
And so he seems to be the provider in that scenario, and there's this huge burden on men to provide, especially when you have more of those old school situations, right, where you don't have women like Catherine in the situation, and you see him. For him, it's not this infidelity, right? For him, it's not this, you know, cheating, which is weird because through the whole game, everything has been, like, people are in this dream because of infidelity. That's why they're here. But it seems to be a little bit broader than that. And for Orlando, it's his self-hatred for what was infidelity for him, for not cheating on her sexually, but failing her, right? For being unwilling to return to her, right? It's crazy.
That was pretty good, bro.
It's nuts. And so that's why he's one of my favorite characters. And so now this purgatory is this self-imposed, you know, I always think of that scene from the Da Vinci Code where the guy's just like,
oh yeah,
self-flagellation, you know, he's just like whipping himself. Like, that's what this is. This whole situation for all these men, and you know, even the ones who are like, yeah, you know, get as many women as you can, you know, the stuff, like, even they, like, talk really badly about themselves in the dream especially. And it just becomes this kind of little, like, circle jerk of self-hatred. It's very interesting, and how Vincent responds to them is also really interesting, because you can choose to respond with, like, reassurance or, like, screw you, you know? A really cool concept in the myth of Catherine is sheep who literally don't live in the real world anymore because they've been consumed by the puzzle. It's what they love now. It's all they want. And they just knock other sheep down. Like, they just hop down. They're these huge buff sheep with, like, gloves.
Chad sheep.
Chad sheep. And they have huge horns, right? The length of the horn seems to be how long they've been in the dream. In this dream. Because some will not go to the next level. They'll just sit there and be afraid.
I should say for this episode, I didn't finish the game. I've been very busy the past 2 weeks.
You finished it like twice before.
Yes, I've played it twice before. It's been a few years. I played full body on release, and then I played Catherine, as I mentioned, 5 or so years ago. However long it's been since we went on. We went to Louisiana, whenever that was.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huh.
I actually didn't finish that playthrough. I got right to the very end, like the last day or two, and then while we were on vacation, watched the ending for, you know, the various choices I had made and the ending I would have had. So I've actually only finished it once, if you don't count that. I sort of count it.
Yeah,
I got busy. I was gone for a week. I wanted to watch it right now, so I didn't wait.
Yeah. I would count that.
Yeah, I'd count it as well. So 2.5 times. Because I'm on day 6 now.
Oh yeah, and
day
that's
6 this
day 7 and 8 take a long time.
Yes,
like,
they both have 4, right?
Yeah, and even the cutscenes around them are much longer. Yeah. So it's like there's one cutscene that, I mean, it rivals anything in Metal Gear. There's one cutscene at the end that you're sitting there literally controller down for it was almost an hour, I think.
What?
Like, it was
I don't recall that
long cutscene.
Huh. Interesting.
And I was like, it's like, I felt right at home.
Yeah, of course you did.
I felt right at home. I was like, oh, sweet. Kojima joined on this game? This is great. So it's...
I really like the cutscenes in this game.
Oh, you want to see what happens next so bad.
Yes, but not just that, like, the graphics in this game is not good. But the art style carries it so much to where even... Like, that cutscene is probably not fully 2D animated, is it?
Yeah, there's a couple. It cuts a few times.
So the cutscenes in this game happen in engine, and then there are also classic, you know, anime.
Like exactly what you'd see in Persona 5.
Yeah,
literally exactly.
Yeah, though there's from what I remember, quite a few more anime cutscenes in Catherine than there are.
Or at least
there were very few.
At least by ratio, at the very least.
Sure, maybe by ratio. There were seemingly very few in Persona. It was a lot of in-game cutscenes, but because it's so much smaller than Persona 5, which again, same engine, same art style. This was a test for everything they were going to be doing with Persona 5. But because, you know, the sets are the bar and his 2-inch apartment, 2 square inches, which is, you know, typical, I guess. I would much rather watch a cutscene in Catherine than an in-game cutscene in Catherine than in Persona 5. Just because the tight-knit, intimate spaces are...
That's a really good point.
I like them. I like being in the spaces.
Yeah, the repeating spaces, too, like, really lets the game play with ideas, right? So, like, the bar is a very... it's his safe place, right? But it's a place of community. It's a place where he can kind of be himself, where he feels like he can be himself. Then you have his apartment where, like, nothing good happens in his apartment room in this game. Like, not a single good thing. It's like his normal life.
Interesting. That's a space where he cannot be himself.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, it totally is, and he's not safe there, and he can't even trust himself, right? Because Catherine keeps keeps waking up in his bed, and he, she's scary.
Yeah.
She's scary.
Right. Oh no, it was long before I played Catherine, but you remember that anime? It's like 4 minutes. That short film about sex addiction or addiction to porn or something, where it's a situation almost exactly like Catherine. Like the setup is the bed against the window, against the wall, and this girl sort of rolls over on top of this guy and pukes obsession and addiction into his
no idea
mouth.
what you're talking
Yeah, you have seen it. I think it was from one of the animators of Neon Genesis. You shared it with me. I mean, I saw it years ago, but you're like, dude, have you ever seen this? This is very recently.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, and it. What is it called? We won't link it, by the way, if we remember.
Yeah.
We cannot. But it's very. I don't even know where I was going with that now. Just remembering that video is
That's how you know
crazy.
It's good, when it just pulls that stuff in. Yeah.
Where were we?
I was talking about the just the self punishment stuff, the self hate, and
Oh yeah, he can't feel at home in his apartment. Be himself.
And so he it's a really interesting thing because what's chasing him, no matter which path you're leaning toward, right? The same stuff's gonna chase him every time. The weird, sex monster butt with eyes thing, and then a baby with a chainsaw for some reason, but baby, and Catherine in a wedding dress, and he's fleeing. For me, playing it until I kind of got near the end, someone who has his priorities very aligned, who like isn't kind of under the same kind of pressure as Vincent. I'm just like, oh, she's running away from responsibility, like a loser, and that was my take until you kind of go further in the game and realize that, being with Catherine isn't easy, with Kay isn't easy, and she's not perfect either, and he is hurting her by not being willing to say, oh, I don't want that, by not like is equally not being quote unquote a man about it, by saying, by just making no decision at all, right? He's just listless. Like either saying, I don't want that, I want to just have everything as it is right now.
Well, he can't decide because he feels obligated, and there is this shame there. So I feel like the reservations he has is. No, I don't think they're fair reservations to have because he's freaking 32. Get your life together.
But what I'm getting at is, no matter what he was feeling, he would have the same nightmares, and that's why no matter which side you're leaning towards, I think he has the same nightmare, right? Because both require him to step up and say, I recognize this can't go on as it is, and I need to make a decision. Right.
Yeah, I do like.
So he grows up either way. Basically.
Yes, I appreciate. So on the first playthrough, I went with Catherine for a K. I tried to be a man about it, and get married. Except that I'm going to be a dad soon. With full body, I went with Rin, and in this playthrough, I'm going for Catherine with a C, and. So far, I'm on day 6 now. There's not, and I'm making all the, like bad choices for the dialogue options. So the meter is almost all the way on the left side, the red. Despite that, he's still Vincent. Like there doesn't seem to be much of a change. So it seems like it's really just all piling up to whatever the climax is going to be, where he finally decides, okay, this is the kind of person I'm going to be. Like he's Vincent all the way through, no matter which way you're playing the game, until the very end, where that Vincent will finally become real.
What's funny too is that he's supposed to be this loser, right? He's supposed to be just this absolute loser that, make up your mind.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's the way he is in all 3 playthroughs.
Like him.
Yeah.
I like him. Like, he's a guy, like, he's genuinely frustrated with himself. He's genuinely, like, having everything he's been putting off for the past, if adulthood is like, 18, 16, 18. For the past, 15 years of his life, everything he's been putting off having to deal with is being dumped on him in a week. And that's not an excuse. He should have just dealt with it. But, like, to watch him go through being forced to make those very, very important prioritizations and decisions, it's like, oh, I've felt that. Like, I've had to make a decision like that before. Mm-hmm. I've had to decide I'm prioritizing this. I have a very good friend who will remain nameless who has had to make a very similar decision. Basically, having to decide, is it worth investing in this relationship with this girl where we're not quite sure how serious we're going to be about this, even though we've been together for a while, and she doesn't want to move, but do I, leave her anyway and take my dream job? Is that selfishness? Is that me doing the best with what I have dealt? Is it me doing what's best for both of us? Like, having to make that prioritization, and in a really icky situation, and being able to talk to him and hear his thoughts on this while playing Catherine, like, it's like that for me revealed a lot of the magic behind.
Do you think he'd play Catherine?
No,
because I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would. I don't think he would. But he.
What if you frame it like that though?
You know him. He's very black and white.
Yeah.
He's very black and white.
Yeah.
He'd be like, this is stupid. Like, this is a dumb decision.
Be a man, you
freaking
loser.
That's exactly
Get married. What it is. Have your child, you 32-year-old piece of crap.
That's exactly what he would say. And he'd say, like, but why doesn't he just get married? Like, what a loser. Like, it's great. But yeah. And so, it's so much, I guess that is where I wanted to get to. It's so much more than just about infidelity, right? It's about growing up and what does it mean to do the right thing, to make a decision. What are the consequences of that? Can you live with that? What are your values in those decisions? Like, really, really base decisions that, people are making at 16, 17, and 18, hopefully, or at least experiencing and having to wrestle with, even if they put it off like Vincent, eventually will come crashing down. So I think for me, that was a lot of where the magic is it's speaking to so much more than just that infidelity. It's one of my favorite stories growing up, right? It's one of my favorite, as the Germans would call it, Bildungsroman.
Oh.
Coming of age story for a 32-year-old man.
Yeah. That's what I think it
is. I think it's a coming of age story for a 32-year-old man. And I think that's why I love it.
Huh. Yeah. That's true. That's true. It's good, man.
It's a really good game. I would highly recommend this to everyone. You will know within literally an hour if it's for you. Like,
yeah,
you will know
easy.
Very fast if this game is for you or not.
So,
dude,
with
the
that
scene
in mind,
where he... Sorry, go ahead.
I would pick it up on Steam or something. I don't know what the refund policy is like on Xbox, but yeah, you're right. You'll know pretty immediately after the first. Maybe you'll try to push through and see what the second day is like, but certainly after that, you'll know. So you can return it pretty easily.
Yeah.
What is it, like 4 hours or something on
sure.
on Steam? I'm on day 6 and I do not have 4 hours clocked yet. So you can play a pretty good chunk of it, and still.
And you can take your sweet time too if you want.
You can, because my last playthrough,
Rapunzel.
because there's 10 days. My last playthrough was at like 14 hours.
That's what I finished on this time. I spent, I think my last time was 15 hours.
But I'm going into day 6 with.
Tyler's also much better than me at puzzle games, so some of those puzzles took me a while.
Well, I'm also not talking to everybody. I'm just sort of being an asshole.
I think I took longer for my first playthrough than your 14 hours. I think it took me like 15. Maybe 16.
Okay.
Tyler's just better than me at puzzle games. It's just a fact. He plays them quite a bit more than I do. For me, I found the hardest puzzles were the ones with.
Oh yeah, let's jump into the gameplay.
Let's talk about gameplay. I think we've talked a lot about
based
the
on
heart of this game.
Based on all of that, we recommend it to a lot of people.
To at least try.
At least try a coming of age story for the modern adult man.
Yeah, very interesting.
Indeed.
So gameplay. I'm gonna let you run with this, but I did want to really quick throw in there. I struggled the most with puzzles where you had to think a few steps ahead, like anything where it's because there's a timer no matter what, right? But the game is really good about balancing. If it's gonna give you a head scratcher, it gives you a lot of time to solve that. And, you'll know how good you are because, like, if you have a lot of time left over, by the time you finish, you get bonus points based on your remaining time, basically. The blocks left, which is just your remaining time. And they do an incredible job of balancing, giving you a lot of time for some of those head scratchers. Or there are some where you have just really split-second decisions to make, where you look at a layout of blocks and maybe there's 2 or 3 moves that you need to make to ascend. And it may not always be, sometimes it's a simple repeatable one you've done a few times, but sometimes you gotta think about it. So being able to look at an array of blocks, make a decision, implement that decision, and move up. I was really good at those. Those go with your gut, because you start dreaming about blocks at night yourself eventually. Like, it's very much one of those kinds of puzzle games where it just gets in your head. But man, some of those, there were a few I was good at, but about half of the ones where they give you a lot of time and you have to make quite a few moves. It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
No instinct really. You have to think ahead very, practically. Those ones got me.
I agree. No, that's exactly the same with me. I can typically get through them pretty quickly if I'm just rushing ahead. But once you get there, there's an obvious platform, you're meant to look at this, just stand there for a little while. Those I did have a pretty hard time with, but that's also intentional. That's why they give you that time. So let's get a sort of further, a deeper picture of the gameplay. These blocks are falling. That's, you die if you fall in your dream. That's the conceit there. And they're just a little bigger than Vincent. So they're cubes that you
big
pull
enough to where
out.
You think you would, if you saw one, you wouldn't think you'd be able to pull it.
Yeah. So you can pull them out of this wall or push them off of a platform, pull them around and make steps for yourself, or hang off of a ledge and climb around and pull yourself up on another block. That's basically the core of it. And so imagine if you played, what's that old arcade game with a Q*bert? If you could move all those blocks in Q*bert, that's really what it looks like, especially in the arcade game they have in the bar.
Rapunzel.
Rapunzel. It's made to look like Q*bert. So you're pulling all these things in and out, and you're trying to ascend to the top, but they mix it up with a bunch of different kinds of blocks. There's ones that are significantly heavier, so they probably take 5 times longer to pull out or to push than the normal size blocks. There are trap blocks, which if you step on them very soon, it's maybe half a second, some spikes will come up and kill you. Now you can jump off of them. You can run over it really quick. So they're not actually that dangerous. That's one of the weaker blocks in the game. You've got jumping blocks, which shoot you 10 blocks up. They're spring-loaded boxes. The bombs, I don't remember how long the bombs take, but there are bomb blocks that will destroy a grid around it if you activate it. Is there anything other than the ice block, which I was going to mention last?
There's the monster blocks, the ones with the tongues. That
Oh,
they'll,
they
like,
push you off?
Yeah, they push you off if you're climbing around them.
That's right.
And
that's
if you
right.
step on top of them, they bite their tongue and die.
Yeah, I like
Very,
this.
it's very violent.
Yeah, I like
the
this.
breaking blocks. Did you mention?
Oh no, I didn't mention the breaking blocks.
Those
You can
ones are
step
the
on those
most
twice.
difficult, I think.
Yeah,
around.
those are great inclusions. So the breaking blocks, and then my favorite by a pretty significant margin are the ice blocks, which you just slide on. So if
Oh man, I would forget sometimes and just at the very top of something slide off the edge. I'm like, "Jah!"
yeah,
So mad.
so if you'll slide until you hit the next stable block, which is really any other kind of block that is not ice. So if there's a bunch of ice ones in a row, you might be on one side of the level and you take a step to the left and you're going to slide all the way to the left and fall off the edge. And you'll grab the next level down if there is something to grab.
If not, you'll just die.
Yeah. Now that sometimes is worse. Grabbing like you're on another side of the level and you don't have a way to get back up.
Yeah.
It's terrible sometimes. Though it's very generous with your redos.
There's so many retries in this game.
Yeah. It is pretty generous in that regard. But the ice blocks you can manipulate. I think they make for the most interesting puzzles because you can pull out any kind of block and just push it and pull it. No, only pull it. You can't push on an ice block, but you can pull a block to keep you steady so you're not going to slide. So you can walk all the way to the other side of the stage on ice blocks if you're pulling a block with you. It's stabilizing you. And then you can hang off the ledge and sort of hang around and move to the other side of the ice blocks that way. And then also when you push a block on one of the ice blocks, it slides with the same physics you do, but will stop on the edge because blocks stop on edge. It's so annoying.
Yeah, it is.
Every time you push a block to an edge, that happens. So anyway, I think they make for the most interesting puzzles. And then there's several items you can get. There's an energy drink that lets you jump up to. There's one that what?
I didn't ever get that one.
Oh, maybe it's.
Maybe it's. I don't know. I missed a few. My favorite was just the one that kills all the sheep.
Oh yeah. So there's that. The Bible that kills all the sheep. The energy drink that makes you jump twice. But maybe that was an inclusion in full body. It's been so long since I played Classic. The energy drink. There's a block that puts out 6 blocks under you.
Yeah,
so
that should be noted
you
that I
can make
played
a floor
on PS3. I didn't.
Oh yeah,
play
you
full
played
body.
Classic. I was playing through full body again, because full body has some interesting additions with another Catherine with a Q. They call her Rin. So when I played it, which was my second playthrough, I went for the new character, and it feels great. Like the story flows well because you're going for that character. But if you are going for one of the other 2 characters, the first 2 Catherines, which I'm doing now, that new addition really gets into the way of the flow of the story, the pacing of it, that is. So I think I prefer Classic, but there are some nice additions. Like maybe it sounds like the items.
Isn't there a glow like when when you can crawl along a ledge or something?
Oh, is that not in Classic?
No.
Oh yes, that's there as well. That
seems really nice. So like if you make a continuous ledge that Vincent can kind of crawl across, you can drop down on the side of a block and crawl along the outer edge. It's nice because I also saw a screenshot where it there's a glowing light showing I guess it's just the ledge you could grab technically, right?
No, it's the ledge you are currently hanging on.
Ledge you are currently hanging on. See, that's
because
nice.
Then everything would be blue at that point.
Because
so
that was what took me the longest to take advantage of. Not because I wasn't aware of the mechanic, but because that's the last thing I think of is crawling around something. I always think of pulling blocks and pushing them, but having it hey, this is continuous. Just having that detail a little bit closer to the front of my mind, I'm sure helps immensely.
Yes. Also in full body, you can choose I don't know if they label it as advanced mode or what exactly, but there's basically a new way to play where there are brand new blocks and shapes. Some of them are like Tetris shapes, basically. So you're moving huge sections of the level at once. I've not played with that yet. I've just done the classic gameplay for the 2 times I've played full body. But I would recommend for someone who is interested in this game for the reasons that we talked about previously, play classic. For someone that is, I guess, more generally interested in the game and would like to just
gameplay,
engage in the silly
puzzles.
story and the fun gameplay, yeah, full body, absolutely. It's a great version of the game. But classic, I think, is the superior way to go.
Because you and I talked a lot about the pacing is so key. Like, I kept wanting to play. There's this, you can see the roots of what makes, or you can see the mind, because the same director, that made Persona 4 and 5 what they are, right? This absolutely lovely cycle of, it's far condensed in Catherine, but this cycle of downtime and social time and gameplay and or like more classic gameplay, like combat, or in this case the puzzles, right? Like they really nail it, and everything is integrated together. Like everything matters to everything else. Like the game you're playing, if you go and play the arcade game Rapunzel, it's literally grabbing blocks and pulling them, just a little bit of a tweak, but it's about climbing to find love. That's Rapunzel. The hero is trying to climb to find love. Like it's sometimes really on the nose, but not in a bad way, I'd argue. Like it's just saying, hey, this is a very distilled experience. Everything is in conversation with what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I love it, man. Why don't you wrap us up with the last section here?
Yeah. Before that, I did want to mention one of the best things. So there are things called techniques in the game. It's just kind of little climbing techniques that you use that the other sheep will tell you. Like if you go and talk to them in the middle, basically every time you complete a climb, there's a little rest area with the other sheep. You can talk to them, and they'll tell you, hey, do you know about this technique? And they'll teach you like, hey, you can just hang on the side of ice blocks to not, something like that. Well, it's great because that only comes after the game has given you like multiple situations to find that out yourself and encourages you and points you in that direction. It does a really good job naturally teaching, but doesn't leave off those who have missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a few that I was like, oh, why didn't I freaking think of that? Like, duh. So that was interesting. The last thing I just want to say is that they have a deity with a beard made of sheep people. With a glowing red eye. He's I'm pretty sure I want him to be my dad.
Oh my god.
He's so like this is just wild to me. Is some of these character and enemy designs, like there's a baby that chases you with a chainsaw. There's this disgusting like butt monster.
It is I actually really appreciate that design.
Oh, it's brilliant.
What I got from that is that so Catherine with a K, his girlfriend, seems to be a very traditional, hardworking woman.
Yeah.
Whereas Catherine with a C probably gets pretty freaky.
Oh yeah.
Which Catherine with a C, as we've talked about, is sort of like what he wants. Like that's his perfect woman, and everything that's chasing him are some sort of perversions of his responsibility, or what not engaging in that responsibility is doing to him, to his psyche. And so like putting all of these sexual desires on his girlfriend that we don't know, we don't know a ton about Catherine with a K, but I'm just imagining let's say maybe my wife.
She never even like touches his hand in the game. Like until you get a good ending with her.
Yeah.
Like she literally has no physical affection shown at all. Really no affection shown at all a lot of the time.
Yeah, she's pretty cold. But I'm imagining that to be what putting these maybe perverse sexual desires onto his partner that is not interested in that is doing to him. That's sort of
really interesting.
what
Because it's got
that
like this
monster
tongue
is.
hanging off of it.
Yeah,
Like,
so it's this the body of a woman crawling backwards. So the butt is very visible to you, which is also a gaping mouth with teeth.
eyes,
And there's eyes,
like askew.
yeah, and this massive tongue that's hanging out, and with these like bent backward legs instead of hands, because they're legs, you get these feet like trying to crawl up the tower.
It's crazy.
It's gross. It's really crazy.
It's really good. It's really well done. Oh yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, we talked about the voice acting already.
Yeah.
I mean, Troy Baker, dude, he's
awesome. We love Troy
He's
Baker.
too
here.
good. Like, it's one of those times where like, oh, he's the best. Oh yeah, yeah, he's the best. Like, there's no argument. There's no like, oh yeah.
I mean, how do you go from Vincent to Joel?
Yeah, it's
especially Joel from Last of Us 2.
Yeah, he's
He's
amazing.
so good. His range is
breaks
great.
my heart. He doesn't have more time as Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, he's Ocelot
He's
in Metal Gear
Ocelot.
Solid 5.
He's Ocelot.
And this is in the future, right?
Yeah, it's in the 80s, so it's
Oh, okay.
20
So
years
it's
later.
in the past from the first Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah. He's not an old man yet.
Okay. Young Ocelot.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
He has a couple good scenes, but like really just gets way underused, unfortunately. Yay, Konami and budgets and that whole thing.
I don't know much about Metal Gear Solid 5, just what I've seen in promotional videos and some gameplay I've watched. But going from the silly anime style, which, it has some realism to it, but it's also like obviously anime, in the first few games to this hyper realism, I cannot imagine Ocelot existing in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Everybody's way more grounded in 5. Like, everybody is way more. Now, notice I didn't say everything is way more grounded in 5, but everybody is way more.
Yeah, I know about the fire whale.
Dude, that's enough. Like, that alone would be enough, but there's so much more. It gets nuts. It's still very anime in the right ways.
Okay, all right.
In all the right ways.
It's weird thinking about him.
It is my favorite fight with a Metal Gear in any of the games. That's not true. 4 has my favorite fight with a Metal Gear, but 5, very close. It's literally. Have you seen the Metal Gear from 5?
No.
I'll just let you experience it. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, all that to say, this game was a great recommendation.
Very happy.
Always.
2 in a row.
You always
2 in
got
a row.
the quality ones. I think my preference is for Catherine between the two you've recommended, which is an odd choice because usually I always lean towards the like childlike stuff, but I think just the
you haven't finished Chrono Cross yet.
It's true. It's true. But the maturity of this is really like they do such a good job. Man.
Yeah, happy you enjoyed it. It's I wish I could have played more. It's just been so busy these past 2 weeks. So busy.
But you look great.
But I don't have a ton going on for this next episode, so
good,
I will.
Metal Gear Solid 4 needs a little bit of time and love.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. I got nothing going on next Saturday. And if I can keep it that way, it will just be binging Metal Gear Solid 4. Of course, I will have already started.
I would
by
recommend looking up tips because there's a lot of hidden mechanics in that game that are just like.
Yeah, that's what she said about 3.
4, even more so.
I didn't with 3.
I would recommend doing it with 3 if you go back to finish it. But 4 has way more. 5 is a little bit more open about it, but still has a lot of stuff it doesn't tell you. But 4 tells you the least. It gives you the basic tools. But there's so much there in 4.
Well, looking forward to it. Weirdly enough. It's my least anticipated Metal Gear Solid game until recently. And now I can't wait to play it. And I think we mentioned this last week. Suddenly interested in playing Final Fantasy 13 again, which these sort of things are things that Zach likes, the weird underdogs.
Yeah.
And I know I've played Final Fantasy 13. I know what I think about it, or at least I think I know what I think about it.
But like, do I know?
Yeah. Oh my God, man. So I'm for some reason very interested in playing that again now. But I'm glad I'm now excited for Metal Gear Solid 4, whereas before I was not. I was gonna play it pretty reluctantly. But that's all we've got this week. Thank you so much for joining us again here at Unpatched Gaming. We will be back next episode, Metal Gear Solid 4. If you've listened to the past few episodes, you will have heard us say, that $2 tier on Patreon, that'll get you into the Discord. But that is not true. You can go to any of our videos and find the Discord link. It is open. Come join the community. Come talk about games. And folks, don't forget to share what you love with who you love.